Hi guys, welcome to a little mood reading with me vlog. Hi, editing Hannah here. I just wanted to say that if you've seen my newest video, you know I'm in college now, so I just wanted to preface this video by saying that this was from early August. I was on a trip for like the first week of August, and then once we got back is kind of when I started this reading vlog. So this was from basically the second week of August, and that's why I was at home still and had all my books and everything. And obviously now that's not the case, so I'm in a different location now. But I hope you still enjoy this one, even though I'm only getting to edit it now. Yeah, have fun watching me just mood reading in August. I have been tearing through books this month so far. I've read almost half of my TBR in like the first week of the month, so I'm hoping I can get through all the books on my TBR, but we will see. I'll show you what we've got for options. So these are all the books that I have left to read on my TBR. So I just finished Queen of Shadows, so I could either do the tandem read or I could read one of these three. I did promise that I would read a man called, I looked it up, it's a man called Uva. So I did promise I would read a man called Uva next. And then hopefully I'll get into some of these other ones as well. I'm gonna start with a man called Uva. As far as I know, this is about an old grumpy man, and yeah, that's all I know about it. But my dad read it recently. He said it was really, really good. So I'm excited to start it. I already picked out like tab colors and everything based on the cover. I'm gonna get into it. I'll update you guys as I go, and we'll see what else I end up reading. A little update. I just started the book. As you saw, I got to page 36, chapter 5. And so far it's honestly really interesting. I really like his writing style. He uses a lot of similes, which I really like. It's very interestingly written though. Like so far we're just following this man called Uva, and he's just kind of going around living his life. And then there's this new family that's moved in next door, this like pregnant woman with 2 kids, and then her husband also. I'm going to update you guys when I get further in and tell you more about my thoughts as I go along. It doesn't have a ton going on, but it's still kind of fun to read it as you go along. Hey guys, a little update on a man called Uva. I just got to page 108. I've honestly, like at the beginning, I was kind of not really entirely into the book, I'm not gonna lie, but that was more a me thing than the book. Like I've just been in a slump today, but I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna sit down and like read a little bit before bed to like decompress. I mean, as you can see, it's dark outside, it's like nighttime. So I sat down and read from page 36 to 108, and honestly now I'm kind of really getting sucked into the story. Like I feel like now there's always something going on, and so you can trust and see that something will be happening. Like it's no longer just him living his life. Now there's like other people, and it's also very interestingly alternating between his childhood and his past, and then his current living situation and the people that are currently a part of his life, which I find very interesting. But this book is very centered around grief so far, I think. Definitely check trigger warnings if you plan to read this, because this could definitely be triggering to some people, but I have kind of been getting more into it and becoming more invested. It's written in a very matter-of-fact way. Like Uva to me does not seem like the type of man that would think about things very much or have a lot of feelings involved in everything. He just kind of does things, and that's just how he is. Like he's a very matter-of-fact person, and I find that very interesting because the story, because it's in his perspective, is written very bluntly almost. I'm definitely getting more immersed into the story and the world, and I'm interested to see what happens from here. I will update you tomorrow. I'm guessing I'm about like a quarter of the way through, so I'm hoping I can at least get to halfway tomorrow, maybe even finish. I will say the beginning feels a lot more lighthearted and just like la-di-da, you're going along, you're following this guy, and then around like the 20% mark, it kind of starts to take a bit of a darker and heavier turn, but it's not dwelled upon. Like the writing style still stays la-di-da, matter of fact, here's what's happening, even though there are heavier things happening in this book. Overall, I think the book's very interesting, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Hi guys, ignore my hair. I'm trying to have it out of my face right now, but I've been reading a little bit more. I got to page 136, and there are so many little instances where there will be a line that is repeated again later but with a different meaning, and those for some reason just hit. Like, it feels dumb to like tab the same exact line twice, but it hits differently each time, because you'll like get this line and then you'll see the rest of the story and then the line repeats again and you're like, oh, you know? Anyways, that was just something I really noticed and enjoyed about his writing. Like I said, I'm trying to get to the halfway point today. I'm currently at page 136, and halfway is at around like 168. So I got about like 30-ish pages until halfway. So I'm about there. I'm probably at like 45% of the way through. Just to give a little update for A Man Called Uva, I just made it to page 214, chapter 25, and I looked that up. It's a little more than 60% of the way through, so I have made some good progress today. I'm hoping I can finish tomorrow. As for my thoughts, I am finding the writing really light and fun and so easy to read, so easy to get through. Like, I basically read 100 pages in like an hour. I just sat and like binged through that bit, but the story is kind of split up into alternating portions of like one chapter will be about his current timeline of where he is now, and then the next chapter will be about some part of his past. So far, they've kind of been moving chronologically, but there's a few other bits that are sprinkled in there as well about his past that are not totally chronological. And yeah, that's kind of the structure of the book, but occasionally there's just a line that really hits you in the gut. I've been tabbing some things in here, as we can see. So I have really been enjoying it. It does kind of cover some heavier topics that are a little bit tougher to read about, but obviously the writing style makes it not as rough to digest because it's very simply written, but it still carries an emotional impact that shows through the message of this book, I think. And I think that message and that moral of the story will really carry through at the end. I also know there's a movie now for it, it's named A Man Called Otto. They changed the name to be a little bit more English speaking friendly. And now that I am reading the book, once I finish, I probably will also watch that movie. But yeah, that is my little update. So I'm gonna go to sleep, but I will finish this tomorrow and I will give you my final thoughts. I finally finished A Man Called Uva, as you guys saw, and I did cry at the end, probably also as you guys saw. This book was really good, really heartfelt. I have like quite a few tabs in there. It was written in such an interesting and engaging way, and it made me really feel like I was sucked into this story and into this man's life. Kind of giving a backstory that explained his current predicament while also going through his current predicament if that makes sense. But by the end, it was really heartfelt and really touching, and I feel like he didn't necessarily change as a person, but he just, other people just kept, I guess, coming into his life and changing it for the better, even though he himself did not really change as a character throughout all this. And I think that's something that made this book really good, is that they're not changing him, they're just bringing out different sides of him that aren't like evident at the very beginning. So yeah, I did cry at the end. I really liked this book. I'm not gonna give it a rating until the end, just because I don't know what I want to rate it yet. I finished it like an hour or two ago, and I'm undecided on my rating because I like to let my ratings sit for a bit. Otherwise I find that I'm too rash with what I decide to rate my books. So, but yeah, I did really enjoy this. So I'm settling kind of in between the 4 and 5 range, maybe even a 5 if I keep thinking about it. Who knows? The next books I'm gonna read, you might be able to guess based on like looking at my TBR cart here what's missing. I'm gonna do the tandem. I am a little intimidated, I'm not gonna lie, but I found a free download of like a bookmark version of the tandem reading guide, and I printed it out and laminated it to have so that I could follow it as I go along the book. I'm excited though to dive back into this world. I love this world so much, and I love these characters so much, and I'm so excited to see where things go, even if I feel like the end of Queen of Shadows was a little bit lacking. But yeah, I'm excited to read these two. I am probably also going to annotate them, so I'm going to pick out tab colors for each, and then they'll each get their own little tab set. So I'm going to do that before I start, but that is what I plan to pick up next. I have been reading faster than I normally do this month, so this, however, I'm not sure how fast I'll get through this, obviously. Queen of Shadows I flew through pretty quickly just because, like I said, I love the world, I love the characters, it's very immersive, I want to know what happens, so I just read really fast through it. These ones though, I'm not sure what's gonna happen, and I've heard people say that they like don't like some parts of it or they like other parts of it, so we'll see on these what I think. So yeah, I'll update you as I go through reading that, and we'll see what I think at the end. It's now the next day, and I have started the tandem read. I have like my little bookmark guide, and I have the books here. So I'm currently on page 94, chapter 9 of Empire of Storms, and then I'm in the middle of chapter 3 of Tower of Dawn on page 28. So I think I'm gonna try to finish this chapter so that I can kind of be at a good stopping point, and then I would have to move back over to Empire of Storms after chapter 3. But so far I'm kind of enjoying it. I will say, beginning wise, I think Empire of Storms is better, just because I feel like Empire of Storms feels like Queen of Shadows did. Like there's similar perspectives and similar like world, plotline, whatever, versus Tower of Dawn is in like a totally different place that has totally different politics and dynamics, and you know, it's like you're learning a new world basically. And then the characters, there's only 2 characters that are in here so far that I can tell that we're focusing on, so because of that I'm like worried I'm gonna be a little bored reading this. But I have hope that it's gonna get better, and I know that there's some characters, like I see fan art for Throne of Glass, and there's some characters that I see fan art for that I haven't met yet, so obviously they have to come up at some point, and I'm assuming it's in one of these 2 books. I'm assuming this one just because this one has less characters in it right now, but yeah. I also did bend. I don't know if you can see, but there's like a bend here. I made a crease, and I'm a little sad about it. We will see my thoughts in the future on this. But yeah, so far it's kind of not taking the route I thought it was gonna take. This one specifically, I had no idea what to expect, and it's just like different than what I was thinking it would be. And with Empire of Storms, it was also unexpectedly, like the beginning was very dynamic unexpectedly, and obviously the route that the characters thought they were taking, they're now not taking. So yeah, generally just a little bit unexpected, but I looked it up. I am 9% through the entire tandem read, so together I've read 9% of the pages for this, so I can tell this is gonna take me a little while though. So yeah, but Sarah J Maas's writing, for some reason I read it so fast, so hopefully it doesn't matter that it's long and I can just get through it quickly like I did with Queen of Shadows. So yeah. I'm listening to a Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms playlist on Spotify, and this song that just came up was Travel Song from Shrek the Musical. And if you know that song, you know I can understand why they put it in there, but it's just so silly. Because I'm reading this like crazy intense like fantasy book, and it's just sing a song. Oh man. It's among like dramatic acoustic fantasy movie soundtracks, and there's just Shrek the Musical. Little update. I've read quite a bit since I've last spoken with you guys. Yesterday I got to about 20% of the way through the entire tandem read. I just got to around page 200 of Tower of Dawn. I just finished chapter 16, so I'm right here on the tandem read on like the first column. So I'm making good progress, I would say. My thoughts on Tower of Dawn at the beginning, I found it so dry and so boring because we were getting into this like new world and there were new things going on, and there was nothing specifically interesting going on other than like the politics of this place. But there were so many names, and then they explained the politics so quickly at the beginning that I was just sitting there for a while waiting for them to say something else about it. We now have like elements of mystery, and we have healing and grief and relationships, and it's starting to pick up and get really good. So yeah, like I said, I'm around 200 pages, so I'm right around there. And then Empire of Storms, I found it really good right at the beginning, but then it kind of pivoted and has 3 different storylines going on that I can tell. We got mostly only one of them at the beginning, and then we moved more towards getting the other 2. So I'm only really invested in one of them, honestly. So when I'm not reading that perspective, I'm kind of a little bit like, So honestly, I would say reading them together, I really like the balance of it. I think I can look up who made this guide because I can't remember the name right now of the person who did this, but this is really, really well made. This bookmark, yes, and I can put this in the description so you guys can download this. But yeah, this guide is made so well to like not give you any spoilers from either book, and it does a really good job of balancing like the interesting and boring parts. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this now. I'm back. I brought a drink. I just found this in our fridge. I don't know what it is, so we'll try it together and we'll see if it's good. Anyways, let's try this out. That's pretty good. The flavor tastes kind of like a strawberry haichu, but it's not as sweet, which I kind of like. I am 32% of the way through the whole tandem read together, so I'm 30% of the way through Empire of Storms and 34% of the way through Tower of Dawn. So I will say I feel like it's interesting because Tower of Dawn, the beginning of it, I read a lot more of the beginning of Empire of Storms before I read a lot of the beginning of Tower of Dawn, but now that we're getting more into it, I feel like I'm reading more of Tower of Dawn than of Empire of Storms. Although if I'm not mistaken, Empire of Storms is longer than Tower of Dawn by like 50 pages or so, so that could also be why I feel like I'm getting through it faster. But I will say I feel like I'm getting towards kind of a lull in both books where they're kind of just gathering information, building relationships, so there's not much action happening, or as many like plot twists or anything. I'm really happy I read them together because I think having that motivation to switch between is helping me get through them, and without it I think I probably would have read the two of these a lot slower, and I also definitely think that I would have been a little bit more lost going into Kingdom of Ash, because for me personally, like books like a series like these, I can't read them all back to back to back to back. I get burnt out reading the same genre, so I've had to kind of read other stuff in between, like romances or like mysteries, like other things in between as like palate cleansers almost. And so knowing that this book, the timelines of these two books, they happen at the same time, so the events of this book going into Kingdom of Ash, if I had read this first, then I read this, then I read Kingdom of Ash, obviously I would be reading stuff in between, like I said, so I would forget what happened in Empire of Storms going into Kingdom of Ash. But yeah, that is my little update for now. Talk to you guys more later when I continue reading. I'm hoping today that I can get to the halfway point, and then my hope is that I can finish on Sunday. I've got a bit of an update for you guys. So I made it to part 2 of Tower of Dawn, which is page 334, and I'm currently on page 276 of Empire of Storms. I'm about that much through, so I'm about halfway through Tower of Dawn, and then I'm about, I want to say like 40% of the way through, maybe 45% of the way through Empire of Storms. In total, I'm about 42-ish% of the way through the whole series, I think. Probably a little more than that, since I last checked was before the current progress that I've made now. Being almost halfway through, I thought I'd give a little update. I am really enjoying reading them together, honestly, but I will say right now I'm enjoying Tower of Dawn more than Empire of Storms. I feel like Empire of Storms is, we've seen it before, it's tried and true, so it's still good. I just feel like there's a few too many plot lines right now that are disconnected, and I want those to either like come together or be clear how they're gonna intersect further on, or like I care about each of those characters individually, but there's just too much going on, I think, right now in Empire of Storms for my little brain to handle. Tower of Dawn, on the other hand, there's basically 3 main characters, 3 perspectives, and it's very simple. They're all in one place. They're in 2 places rather than being in like 4 in Empire of Storms, is what I'm saying. So it's a lot simpler for me to read because I know what I'm getting into with those characters, and I know what they're after, and I kind of know like their goals, versus I feel like in Empire of Storms there's a lot of unvoiced plans that are also making things confusing because you don't really know what each character's end goal is necessarily, and that's frustrating to me. So right now I'm enjoying Tower of Dawn more because I feel like Empire of Storms is starting to slow down while Tower of Dawn is starting to pick up. But then again, I'm not as far through Empire of Storms as I am through Tower of Dawn, so I am going to continue the tandem read, and hopefully when I next come to you guys with an update, I'm either right at the end or I've just finished. So did a bunch of reading today, hoping to do a bunch of reading tomorrow and get through another big chunk, and I'll finish it by this weekend. Hi guys, I just wanted to give a little update. I've been reading for most of today and I just got to the 60% mark. So I'm currently on page 412 of Tower of Dawn and 446 of Empire of Storms. I'm about that much through each one of them, and I would say making good progress. Tabs or tabbing. I'm really enjoying them, actually. I do love Tower of Dawn. My only issue is that I don't really care about Nesrin's perspective. So whenever it's kind of focused on her, if it's not focused on plot points, I really couldn't care less. And that's the only reason why I think Tower of Dawn is not the best thing ever for me. But I am really loving Kale's part, and I really love Irene. So yeah. And then in terms of Empire Storms, I am really enjoying reading about, now that all of these characters are finally coming together, I'm really enjoying reading about like Manon and Aelin and, you know, Adion and Gavriel. Middle of the book, around like halfway, some pretty crazy middle of the book action in Empire of Storms, which I absolutely flew through because that was insane. And Lysandra is awesome. That's all I'm going to say about that. So now I'm a majority of the way through it, and I am enjoying it and enjoying reading about how all these characters intersect while also they're still in conflict. Like, it's most definitely a book about war, but it's very action-packed because you've got all the relationships between the characters, and they're also trying to be allies, and at the same time their enemy's not going to give them time to like gather allies. Like, he's just after them the whole time too, which is insane. And I'm kind of enjoying Eli's part of this as well, except we do only have like this much left and she still hasn't met up with them, so I don't have a high hope that she's going to connect with any of the other characters very strongly in this book, and that's probably going to come more in Kingdom of Ash, but I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about the direction this one is taking as well. So I've reached a point in the tandem read where I've gotten to right about here. So I'm currently trying to read to chapter 51 of Empire Storms from chapter 33, which I think I said before is around, it's like nearly 200 pages. So I'm still working my way through that, and then I'm going to switch back to Tower of Dawn after that, and after that it's kind of just like one, or like I'll read 2 chapters of one, then 2 chapters of the other. Like, it's very balanced out, but for right now I'm meant to be binging Empire of Storms until I reach chapter 51. I'm currently at chapter 47, so I have like 4 more to go, I think, maybe 5 more to go. I just wanted to come on here and give you guys a little update since I've been reading all day, and I will probably put in my reaction to the end, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on these 2 books. I am sat to finish the tandem read. I only have a little bit left to go. I did read a little yesterday and this morning, so I am so close to the end. So we are gonna finish this together, and then I will give my final wrap up on my thoughts on these 2 books and the other 2 books I read in this vlog. And I do say other 2 books because although I didn't vlog it yesterday, I read a novella called Drop, Cover, and Hold, which is part of the Improbable Meet Cute series, and I know that I didn't film it, but it took me like 30 minutes to read it, so I wanted to include that in my thoughts. I'm on page 490 of Tower of Dawn, and I just got to the Oasis vacation and also to the point where Nesrin is in the webs. So I know that sounds really cryptic and weird, but I'm trying to not give spoilers, but if you've read the books, you should know what I'm talking about. And then Empire of Storms, I just finished Ansel's portion, I guess, along with the battle that came before it. So I'm gonna play a little music for the vibes. I'll link my tandem read playlist that I found in this video, and then if you want, you guys can also listen. It's not my playlist, I didn't make it, I just found it on Spotify and it's really good. So yeah. So my camera did die, so I have some footage of me reading, but I don't have the footage of me reading the very end of both of the books. But I will say I got some of my crazy reactions on film, on camera, so yeah. But I did finish Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn, and I don't have ratings on them just yet because I finished them so recently, but I wanted to get my thoughts out on them, and then we will do a full book of the video wrap up tomorrow, or like it'll be in a few minutes for you guys. But I loved this reading experience. I feel like there were times when some of the books got, or like in the middle, some parts of the books got a little bit boring because it was just gathering information and like healing and learning and traveling, and you know, and I was just kind of sitting there like, okay, so now what? But I feel like the other book always made up for it because the other book always had something going on. I will say I'm torn on which book was my favorite because this book had a lot of more familiar characters. It had such a good plot, honestly. There were a lot of really good things going on in here, but I feel like this book was such a unique experience to read about, and the romance in this book I love so much more. Like, it's kind of iconic, but I also at the same time feel like the healing and everything was a little bit lacking towards the end, if that makes sense. But it also had its good moments. I will say I think I liked Empire Storms better of the two of them, but that is just my personal preference. I still absolutely loved Tower of Dawn as well, but yeah, you can see that I tabbed Empire of Storms way more than Tower of Dawn. So, and if the amount of tabs in those two doesn't tell you how much I love this series, let me just tell you how much I love this series, because I'm like not ready to read Kingdom of Ash. Like, one, because fantasy book burnout, because these two combined make for one really long book, but also just because it's the last book of the series and I don't want this to be over. Like, I don't want to be away from these characters and be like done with them and their world and everything. I can't. So there's that. There were some moments of this that I was like, wow, like that's crazy, or some moments where I was just like, that is so powerful, and cried a little bit because of it, but they're so good. So those are my final thoughts on these two. Favorite characters, I would say Rowan, because Rowan. Absolutely loved Manon in this as well. She was iconic, and Irene, also a favorite. Other than that, the other characters weren't like my absolute favorite, but that is overall what I've got for these two. So let's move to my wrap-up of all the books that I've read in this video. Let's do a final wrap-up of the 4 books that I read in this video, kind of, because one of them I didn't talk about at all while reading, but that's just because it was a novella. So let's go through it. The first book that I read was A Man Called Uva. This book was really good. I definitely really enjoyed it. I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. I loved the writing style of it, and some of the lines were really good. The switching back and forth between the past and present also made it really good because you're learning more about the character as you're seeing that same character go through their life when they're older. And it was just overall super heartfelt. If you want something super heartwarming and community-centered and kind of character-focused, then you definitely enjoy this one. So yeah, I gave this one 4.5 stars. Then, before finishing the tandem read, I did read Drop Cover and Hold On my Kindle by Jasmine Guillory. This one is a novella about a girl and a baker. She goes to his bakery like every day and she loves it, but she thinks that he hates her. But then there's an earthquake and they get trapped in the bakery together, so it was literally only 40 pages on Kindle, so I read it in like 30 minutes, which is why I didn't talk about it while reading it or talk about picking it up, but I did really enjoy it. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I loved everything about it. It was just so short that it's hard to connect to the characters, but their story was really cute. Some of it was really cute. It was a little unrealistic, but I could look past it because it was cute. So yeah, 3.5. Definitely would recommend this little romance novella series, anyone that is interested in reading them. Then we've got the tandem read, so I'm going to talk about the book separately and then a little about my experience doing the actual tandem. So the first one that I finished was Empire of Storms. If you do the tandem read, you finish this one first. I loved this. I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. It was so good. The romances in it were also so good. It was very much like Queen of Shadows, but there's even more like bringing everyone together kind of thing, which I did really enjoy as well. The way it ended, if you've read it, you know. There were also some parts in the middle that I got a little bit bored and kind of skimmed, or I don't know, wanted to get past them quicker, and I feel like having so many perspectives towards the beginning was a little bit confusing for me because we were jumping back and forth between like 4 different people, and it was a little bit everywhere, but I still really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the characters, I enjoyed all the connections and relationships and everything else that was in this book. So yeah, I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. So then I read Tower of Dawn, or I finished this one after Empire of Storms, which is how the reading order of the chapter works if you do the tandem read. So the last few chapters I read after the last few chapters of Empire of Storms. And I ended up giving this one a 4.5 as well, but for different reasons. I feel like this book was definitely one of healing, of love, of empowerment almost. I absolutely love Irene, and I feel like she's such a powerful character in this book because as much as I love like Aelin, I don't relate to her as much. Like, she's too like conniving. She doesn't share her schemes with people. She has magic that's like insane. Like, nothing about that speaks to me personally. But Irene, I feel like she started out at a position of weakness, but she was like inspired by someone to go fulfill her dream and learn to be stronger and fight back. And that story to me was very powerful and very relatable in a way that the ones in Empire of Storms are not. So I really loved it for that reason. I also love Irene, the romance. I don't want to spoil if you haven't started the series, but Irene and the person she ends up with, the romance is so good. It's such an amazing slow burn story. Will say, Nesrin is also another POV in this book. Her perspective, I frankly didn't care about her at all, but I liked the information she was bringing to the table, so that is probably why this wasn't a full 5 stars. It's just because the beginning was a little bit slow, and Nesrin's portion, I didn't relate to Nesrin as a character, and I feel like we didn't get to know her as a character. We were kind of just along with her to learn about what she was learning about and to get the outcome of this book, if that makes sense. But the ending of this was really good. Plot twist I didn't see coming. Some of it didn't make total sense to me, but that's okay. I still really enjoyed it, and the healing and the love really got to me in this book. So yeah, there are also some crazy plot twists in here, as well as in Empire of Storms, so always love that about a book. Talking about the tandem read as a whole, I think I definitely would recommend doing the tandem for 2 different kinds of people. One, for people that would, if they read Empire of Storms and then read Tower of Dawn and then read Kingdom of Ash, if they would forget what happened here while reading this, I would recommend you read them together, because then you don't have that gap in what's going on. For those people, I would definitely recommend you do the tandem. If you want to do the tandem, totally do it. It was a lot of fun for me. I enjoyed it a lot. The only negative of it, I would say, is if you find all the perspectives confusing, I would just stick to reading them one after the other, because reading them together adds even more perspectives happening at the same time. Like, if you get confused when there's a lot of going from like one character in one place to another character in another place and back and forth, adding Tower of Dawn into your Empire of Storms reading experience makes it even more confusing, because it adds 2 more people and perspectives and places into the story. So if that would be confusing for you, I would just read them in order. But I personally really loved the tandem read. I feel like it was very well thought out and well planned and well structured, and for me personally, I feel like it enhanced my reading experience. So if you are planning to read this series, I would recommend doing the tandem, because I personally really enjoyed it. I didn't find either book necessarily totally boring at either part, but I feel like they were boring at different times, and so it complemented each other. Like, I feel like Empire of Storms at the beginning had a lot of stuff going on, and Tower of Dawn at the beginning was kind of slow, so it kind of helped to alternate with the reading speed of everything that was going on. I feel like it helped me get through them faster, because the boring parts of each book were complemented by an interesting part of the other book. Those are all the books that I read in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I was just honestly mood reading. So let me know if you've read any of them, or if you want to read any of them, and your thoughts, and I will see you in my next one.